What is up, YouTube? It's Cord Campbell. Hello. I have to check my audio as usual. I'm getting better at this. I say that as I'm sitting here waiting. This is funny. So pseudo soup. That's my son, Connor. And I noticed that if I went over and I reloaded, if I went over into Edge, does anybody use Edge? I don't think so. I'm listening to myself. I don't have. Yeah, I can hear myself. Okay, so now I have to turn it off. Now I'm getting better at this. So I went into Edge, and yeah, I can't actually see my. Did I close it? I did. I gotta focus. Okay, so sudo soup YouTube. Sudo soup streams on Twitch. But whatever. Like, I can't even find him in here. I don't know why. This doesn't make any sense, does it? Here, let's go to this. Okay, there's sudo soup, and then here. Well, now it works. Of course, I'd say that it doesn't work, and then. Well, you saw it earlier when I had it open. It was not working. So I'm going to click on this. Now it's working. So that's fine. That's what it looked like just a minute ago. I have no idea. Talking movies with Cord Campbell, one Christian perspective. This guy, he seriously needs to stop. He took my Twitter account for a while. But, he keeps coming in and like edging in on my name, man. This guy's name's Cord Campbell too. He's on LinkedIn as well. So anyway, he's got one view. So check him out. There's two Cord Campbells. This one's talking about Dwayne the Rock. So anyway, so earlier it just wasn't working. This page was not working. I don't know. Anyway, software breaks all the time. That's just the nature of things, I suppose. So, welcome to another episode of Building Mitta, Coding Mitta. I can't even remember the name of my stream. And, well, what are we doing here? So, what we're doing is today we're writing APIs, is what we've been doing for the last 20 episodes. What is going on here? Something has happened with the... Oh, you know what? I know exactly what's happened with us. Something happened with the style sheet. So, we've been... This just looks awful. I don't know what happened here. Very strange. I don't think I have a tag closed there. Let me check on something real quick here. We've been going through building our APIs. Yeah, it's just the... I just don't have a... There's some tag problem down here at the bottom. So let's go fix this real quick. I need to fix this. I was working on the tag methods, which hopefully we'll get into that today. I don't know. I've gotten to the point where I'm just not, I don't even know what's going to happen on stream. It's just sort of random sometimes. We are getting things done, so that's a good thing. So let's see here. Where's it busting? It looks like it's busting here on the pre. Here, right? There's the footer. I don't think I've messed with that at all. That's got to be in here somewhere. No? How about here? Oh, post T model, right here. Oh yeah, here's the pre right there. Need to get rid of that. Or actually I'll just close it. Like that, okay. So hopefully we will talk about the model today. That looks good. I've set my monitor up higher. I feel victorious. I was like looking at it like this because it was setting down about that far on the desk, and I'm standing up today. It feels much better to stand than sit. It makes my ass hurt to sit too long, especially streaming, because then I don't really pay attention to my posture or anything while I'm streaming. So yeah, so if you're new to the channel, I'm trying to shorten this down to where I don't blab on about the site too much, because number one, nobody's watching these, so someday somebody will probably watch them, and then at that point it'll matter. But right now, it's just for posterity, I suppose, is what it's for. So Mitta is a piece of software that I'm writing that is run as a hosted service, and what it does is it hosts an app which has this sort of shell concept. So you have a little shell you can type into, and then you can search for things. And we got search working the last couple of days, although I noticed that for whatever reason this is going to give us an error. I don't know why. And then if you do this is so bizarre. If you do title and you do hacker, that works. And then if you run it again, oh, it says it's an error. I don't know. Now that works. I don't know. I got to figure that problem out. The number of bugs is increasing, but we'll squish them all eventually. We just got to focus. And so whenever you're writing software, if you're thinking about writing a piece of software, you're in the middle of writing software, or you work for a company that writes software, that's what I do. I write software. I've worked at companies that write software. I've had a company, multiple companies that we wrote software. I've sold software. I've sold the companies that have written software. It's this software. As we see with YouTube, right? I mean, it broke. You saw it break. We're hoping that the streaming doesn't break. Let's see here. Yeah, we're good. This stream's current bitrate is lower than recommended bitrate. Open a widget. Oh, it says 9,500 kilobits per second. I kind of wondered. Let's see, can we change that? I don't think we can change that on the fly. We could try though. Right here. It says 9,500. Okay, 9,500. Okay. Settings. I don't know why it needs to be so high. It seems like that worked. It's probably going to still fuss about it, but. So it's like kilobits per second. So that's 4.7 megabits per second, and that's my screen. I don't know. I don't think it needs to be that high, but whatever, YouTube. Okay, so what we're doing today was what we got yesterday. What we got working yesterday was pretty sweet, actually, and I'm going to show you that right now. So I think this search should still work. So we've got one thing indexed. Let's go index something else. There's that weird problem again with clicking on things. Let's go to Reddit. I'm tired of going to Hacker News. Bunch of stuffy bastards on Hacker News. Feedback for our data labeling tool. We're a group of ML engineers from Google and YC building a new data labeling platform called Surge. It's like a lot like Mechanical Turk, except we help you label quality, provide better tools and allow you to label data yourself with your team. Sounds a little familiar. I'm kind of doing that with Mitta, but not exactly. So let's click on Surge, and then it's funny how pages all just end up looking kind of the same, isn't it? I've never seen this page before. Okay, so we're gonna go in here and we're gonna like save this. We're gonna actually tell Grub to index it, or image it. So we're gonna type in localhost 8080 because that's where I'm running the dev server locally. This will send it to prod though. Looks like that worked. So now we're gonna search Surge. Bam. Okay, so now in theory it should come back with a picture of Surge. It's gonna do it. Yeah, that's that problem again. I have no idea what's causing that. That's another bug. This should work though. There it is. If we click on this and open it, we didn't do the redirect. I think that's because something's breaking in JavaScript or something, but there's the page. So that's good. So we took a screenshot of the page. Essentially right now, like the Grub servers, so part of what Mitta does is it screenshots things for you. So you give it a URL, it screenshots it, but then there's more going on than that behind the scenes. We've got a search engine running as well that we're putting it into. So here we can search for, like, can't do that query, but we can do description. And like it's non-obvious how you're supposed to do any of this. This is kind of like if we do it's kind of like a hybrid of something I've dreamed up plus what you would see inside Solr. Solr doesn't have a really good UI. It's search people working on this. So this is what search people think that the UI should look like. And really it is very functional. So, I mean, it's kind of fine, but like this is all of the stuff you're supposed to fill in all of this stuff. And so what I've done is I've kind of like rethought that, and you can do something like this. So you tell it to search, and then that actually runs JavaScript, which you can do a whole bunch of things with. This is JavaScript as well in here. There's a bunch of JavaScript running in here too. But my JavaScript is dynamic. But if we do a search here, we could do a search for, well, we just did a search for star description, but if we do a title star, we're going to get back that Hacker News articles. We only have 2 articles in here right now, or 2 pages in here, 2 images, 2 spools have been created. 1 spool for Hacker News, 1 spool for Surge, actually 2 spools for Surge with only 1 image. And so the reason why we didn't get it back on the description is because if we were to go and look at, and this is Chewy White Robin, so we're looking at Chewy White Robin here, but if we go and look at the Y Combinator one, Hacker News site, you can see it doesn't have a description. The reason it doesn't have a description is because on Hacker News there is no description tag in the page itself. They just don't do that. And if you look at pages across the internet, it's totally inconsistent how people implement pages. About the only thing that you can say about a web page that is consistent is it will look like something when you pull it up. And what I mean when it'll look like something, it'll have some background, it'll have headers, it'll have labels or headers. For example, up here we have like the title. So if we go in here and inspect this, that's a H1, but then on another side it might be an H2. So if we go over here and we look at this, what is that? It's an H1 as well, but it's a different size. We look at this, what is that? That's an AHREF inside a div. So the number of different object types that exist on the internet is quite large, but if we look at it, it's just text. This text is a little bit bigger than this text. And if we have a machine learning model look at it, we can get a machine learning model to start figuring out what is all of this stuff, for example. So a very direct example would be if we were crawling Reddit, and which they probably don't want us to do, if we were to crawl it recursively, in other words, well, the About Community section, well, we'd have to figure out where that is. So if we click on it and we go into it, you can see all these hashes in here for the classes and stuff. That's probably all dynamic. I mean, we're really, like here, we're not even there. Like this, yeah, like that. It says, that's just a div with some hash on it. I mean, you can tell they don't want us to know what that is. I mean, granted, the text is in here somewhere. Here it is right here. There's actually no data whatsoever on this page about what the hell that is. Now, they might have a lookup table at the top if they were being kind. They could say, well, 1ZPVK whatever is the description about the community, but the reality is Reddit doesn't want us to look at the page. So, you know what, Reddit? You can kiss my ass. How about this? So we do this, and I don't think this isn't going to work. I would bet good money it's not going to work. Well, what do you know? Is it going to image it? That's the question. So we do have a title and a description, so at least they've given us that much. It's usually, it seems to be failing on the first run, so I'm just going to tell it to crawl again. We'll see if it comes back. So there's the error from the first one. the first crawl. Now the second one should come back. Title, vision. Well, there it is. It actually looks pretty good, huh? Now, it's kind of meta, but computer vision, we can use computer vision to pull out this information over here. In fact, we could pull out all of this text. We would know that it was all close to each other with computer vision. In fact, Google will do that for us with Google Vision API. And then we could actually figure out, it says at the top, about community. In fact, we could have a bunch of, train a machine learning model to look at a bunch of pages like this and figure out where things were on the page. It's much easier to do that, in my opinion, even though I haven't really done it yet. I'm getting there. But then to go dig around in a page and try to figure out what things are. As we saw, there's no way to tell that on Reddit. To look at the source code of the page, you're not going to figure it out. Okay, so now you're getting a little bit of an idea where we're going with all this. What I'm going to do today is work on the... Why do I keep closing it? I don't just trip myself up all the time. Okay, so we're going to work on the last search method. So yesterday we finished up basically this part. We need to update the docs, so we're going to do that today. But as you see here, now if I do this search, so we're going to search for, well, it says we're searching for tags and that. We're going to take this out because that was just testing for that. Tags URL, and then what else do we want to search for here? Title, was it machine? Oh, it's vision. That's not going to work. Let's do this. There we go. So there's the entry out of the index. And the reason why we're only seeing the title is because why are we getting two titles? Let me take out this. It's because we're only telling it to use, we're giving it a field list. I don't know why that's showing up twice there. It's right there. Oh, it's two entries. Oh, that's what I indexed it twice. So I forgot I haven't dealt with duplicate documents yet. So it was, and one of them had the screenshot of the page, and the other one didn't because the first one's failing for some reason. I don't know why. Figure that out later. So we basically got, we have Solr on the back end. Yesterday we basically got just about any field that you pass in to the query, and that's all done using these Git, using a Git from curl, and we're just passing them in as options with the URL. So parameters in via the URL, and so what it does is just takes all those parameters and then it rebuilds the query. That's what this code does right here. This code right here, all of this, it just rebuilds the query for us. Yeah, right here, for key and request arguments. It just loops through all the keys and the request arguments, and then it rebuilds the request query out. And then it handles the timestamp. So the only thing that is in here that isn't something that's standard to Solr is this TQ time query stuff. And the TQ time query stuff is just to be able to make it easier for users to define a given time range. Mitta is designed to be to deal with basically time series data. So if you wanted to send in time series data, you could. That's just a throwback for me doing logging before. So I used to work at Splunk, and then I did Loggly, and I wanted to be able to have Mitta be able to natively handle time series data. So it can do that, even though I'm not planning on going into like monitoring systems or doing logs or anything like that. But technically, you could use Mitta for that if you wanted to. I'm trying to make Mitta as open-ended as possible because I'm looking for a niche market that I want to go after, and the niche market will have something to do with machine learning and tagging. So the whole idea is that we get a system set up that we have a way to upload imagery. As we were looking at that machine learning offering earlier, if you look at a lot of machine learning stuff, it's all imagery based. So if you are going to do an AI company today, which is what Mitta is, it's an AI company. It's sort of hidden that it's an AI company. I'm not really pushing that hard. I use some words on it on the site like machine learning and stuff like that, but the whole idea is if you don't have imagery with machine learning, well, I mean, if you don't have that support, then you're probably not going to be doing machine learning. But the whole idea is that if you can combine imagery and search and the models together, you can build some really amazing things with this. You can build chat bots. That's what I'm working on, is building a chat bot. And it's just a search chat bot. It's like you talk to the bot, you give it a URL, the bot says, hey, there's what's on the web page. Oh, here's an image that was on the web page. That's the idea of what it's going to be doing. So it's kind of like a little buddy that, says stuff back to you whenever you send it some data. So when you send it something interesting, it'll pull it apart and look at it and try to extract some meaning out of it for you. Or if you give it a query, it'll try to give you imagery back, if it can. The whole Solr API stuff is just friggin' amazing. I mean, Solr is an amazing piece of software. I knock on it a little bit just because of the docs and some of the processes or methodology by which you talk to Solr is a little annoying sometimes, but it is an amazing piece of software. So the people that have worked on it are amazing, and they've done an amazing job on it. And I don't ever mean to be negative on it. I'm just maybe a realist or maybe a fatalist about software. Software does suck, and it's really hard to make it not suck. And so it eventually does suck. And it's kind of like if you stream, eventually somebody will start making noise in the background while you're streaming. Things just happen. And with Solr, the ideas that have gone into it are what are really powerful. It's not, sometimes the implementation of that is less than ideal, but over time it has gotten to be a lot better. And what I wanted to do is be able to allow the user to do queries to Mitta that feel very much like doing queries to Solr, but yet give them ACLs. So some way of controlling access to Solr. And Solr does have that. You can set it up to where it does use usernames and passwords, but I found it extremely difficult to get that working reliably. And I wanted to build something that was much easier to deal with, and that's what we have with Mitta, is we have a way in Mitta now to be able to create indexes and then manage the indexes. We can create a new index very easily. So there's not, it's just a very simple command to create a new index. So we have Wheezy Olive Eagle now, and we could say to Wheezy Olive Eagle, hey, we want you to go index Hacker News real quick. And then hopefully that will go index Hacker News if the one-off error isn't working. Like the first time, it'll probably error out, I'm thinking. It's not doing that consistently, but it does seem to be like the first time you try to go index something, it freaks out. But it might be a race condition or not. So there's that image from the page, and that's only existing in that one index. But if I want to move back to the other index, then I can just go in here and I can say, I think we're using Chewy White Robin, right? And we can switch back to Chewy White Robin, and then if we do that, if we do a search in there, then these are the other documents that we index. So we have 3 indexes available to us. We can shift back and forth between them very easily. We don't have to click on any pull downs or any of that junk when we're authenticated. I can't look at somebody else's index. It's very simple and easy to use. So that in and of itself is a very powerful thing. I wanted to address that for the market in general. So if somebody wanted to come along and use Mitta for just hosted Solr, they could totally do that. And I'll even do image storage for them as well as a feature. So I'm kind of meandering all over the place today, but I'm feeling excited, and the reason why is because we're going to work on this today. So we're going to work on posting JSON to Solr. And yesterday we finished, we had a promise that we were going to do it on stream yesterday, but today we're going to really do it. I can never tell what I'm going to get done, which is kind of interesting. I post that we're going to get something done and then I don't get it done, but then it's usually because I run into a problem, which tells you that there's sort of, in general, a problem for estimating work that needs to be done. So in order to support something like this, what we need to do is we need to have in the system 3 ways of handling a search query. And this is sort of why I separated search from index, even though you can post to create an index or a sidekick. What we call a sidekick at Mitta is an index. But then search itself is like a query, like a get to an index with some query parameters. But I decided to call it, rename the methods and the endpoint. So the endpoint is /s/ the name of the index to query it, which is a little like Solr. In Solr, it's /Solr/ I think the name of the index /select. So you can see that here. So /Solr/ the name of the index / or the core. Sometimes they call them cores, sometimes they're collections, but they're really just indexes. And then /select is the verb. In our case, the verb is the get. So that's what indicates to us that we're doing a select on Mitta. So I'm trying to make it a little bit more RESTful than this is, hopefully. So what we were left with, though, is the idea of being able to run a query based on the JSON that we send in. And so we end up with doing a search here, like we do here, where we type in search and then some parameter. We can do things like this. This will not work because we're overwriting it, but you can sort of imagine that that was searching for stuff that I typed in last week. The UI here, again, if you're wondering about what's going on with the UI is not anywhere close to being done. It's just barely functional so that I can test. But so that's this section here. And then the second section is being able to do this here. And what we do here is we just pass in all of those parameters, as I mentioned earlier. And then the third scenario is that you're going to do a post of some JSON itself. And if we look at like this is not JSON. None of that's JSON. That's just a query parameter. So what we need to do in order to do this is we're going to create in static, we're going to create a JSON, what do we call the other one? We have one called data.json, and then maybe we'll call one query.json. All right, so we're going to save that in there. That's just going to go in static, just as an example, so that we can run an example or test it if we want to. And then what we're going to do is we're going to copy this one, and then we're going to paste it in here like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to look for a JSON validator, because I am going to need that probably. And I'm going to validate that. I'm just checking to make sure it's valid JSON. It says it is valid JSON. I'm going to copy that because it looks like it reformatted it just a little bit for me with tabs, I guess. Whatever, it doesn't matter. And so, so what does this query do? Our source type is, let's do this. Let's actually call this title. So we're asking it to facet on, maybe we have to facet on title and then something like that. I don't know if that's going to work, but we'll try it. All right, so in order to do this, we have another method that we were using, the get JSON method from Flask. So this is, in order to send in and process JSON with Flask, you have to use the get JSON method, and we actually did that with index. And there it is right there. So I'm going to copy this stuff. Yeah, I don't need the timestamp stuff. I'm going to just copy that. Oh, I've already put it in here. I was preparing myself. So I've got it right here. So I'm trying to get the JSON out of the request and set it, and then if there's no line, so if there is a line and we see this, well, we're just going to process this line, and then we're not going to do the other. But if there's no line and we have a JSON query, then what we're going to do is we're going to print the JSON query. All right, so now we do have the JSON query in here in static, and so let's go build our request and see what happens. So we're going to do HTTP localhost 8080, and then that's got to be to the search endpoint, and then we need Chewy White Robin. Should have some data in it, I think, right? Yeah. Yep, that's the one. And then we're going to, let's see. I think it's, I'm going to go look at the docs. Here. Now, I don't know if that's going to work, but we're going to find out. I'm just guessing. And then what do we call it? Query? I think we need that. This thing right here. I think we can decode, we can try to test to see if it's JSON. So if it doesn't have this on it, we could possibly test to see if it's JSON, but I don't want to do that. So you're gonna have to put a content type application JSON header on the request when you send it in with the JSON. So that should load the JSON file. I'm gonna hit enter here. This is not gonna work. We need to move into the static directory. All right, and then what else do we need to do? We need a token. So token equals, and then we gotta grab our token. And now let's do the query and see what happens. It says 405 method not allowed. This method is not allowed for the requested URL. So I'm wondering to myself, I'm like, if there's a dash data, is that a post? And there's the answer right here. Yep, it's a post. So that's what happens. I don't have to put dash X in here, post. So normally, if we were to be very explicit about this, we would put a dash capital X and then a post in here like this. That's also not going to work. And the reason why it's not going to work is because there it says a get right there. So we have to put in a post here for this to work. And now, oh, this is actually good news, because it says local variable Solr queue referenced before assignment on 116. And the reason that's good news is because we've gotten down here. So we're trying to grab the Solr query. Build the query. Yeah, Solr queue right here. Solr response requests get Solr queue. Yeah, so we're doing, so that's a little, it's funny because this is a little confusing because that looks a little bit like the request object that's provided by Flask, which we see up here, this thing, but it's actually requests with an S, which is the requests library, which does a query. And we can see here that's actually querying Solr. So this is where the application which is running on AppEngine is querying Solr or running locally here. So that makes sense because it's not set. But we got to here, so let's look at the JSON query. Should have printed it out, and here it is right here. See that right there? So now what we need to know is how do we send the JSON query to Solr? So let's take a look at that. Post, is it a post? It's going to have to be a post, I think. JSON to Solr query. 8.7. This is what drives me bonkers about a lot of documentation. It's like, I don't want to look at 7.1. So query DSL structure. Queries and filters provided in JSON requests can be specified using a rich, powerful query DSL. Use the JSON Request API with a simple query string. So it looks like we're just posting to it. This is a Git. Okay, so if it's a Git, then we're going to have to do this. And then, of course, we're going to need to make a copy of this, and we're going to need to put it up here and run it here too. And then here, what we need to do is we need to do a request post. And how do we do that? So we're going to do Python requests post JSON. Add a post JSON with Python requests. So here's the answer. JSON equals blut. So we're going to read the JSON here. It's going to be JSON. Then we're going to, we need the URL. So we need we need down to select. We need this. Like this. I think down to the select. I think that's right. Is that what it said? This is query. Seriously? Okay, query. Probably because it's a post. So select must be a get and then query is a post. Okay. And then we want to do a request post. According to this, we want to do a request post with JSON, comma, right? JSON equals JSON query. Yep. And then there should be a Solr response now. What if that worked? That'd be fantastic. Let's rerun it. So it says unknown top level key in JSON request rows. Well, here's the parameters. So let's take the example they give us. This one. And then we're going to go into the query.json. There's query. It says it doesn't like rows. That's so weird. I would think that would work. Let's try that and see what it does. I bet it blows up again. No, that actually worked. Big surprise. Okay, well, are we doing it right? I'm gonna go look at something really quick. Okay, so we're gonna go to GitHub and we're gonna go to LucidWorks Streams. And then we're gonna go into projects. Let me think about this real quick. Yeah, projects. Is this it? No. I thought it was in there. I wonder if it's in there. Oh, there it is. Nope. That's not it either. I think this was it. Well, I don't remember where it went. I thought it was in one of those. I had a Python query that I had written that used this. We have this relatedness query, but this is a Git. That can't be right, can it? If we're doing a -d and we're posting the, well, is it? I guess this is JSON, but it's not JSON. I don't know. This is some weird hybrid or something. It says it's JSON, but it's not. It doesn't look like JSON. That's like a variable or something inside of Solr. It says limit right there. Well, let's see if we can find it here. So use the JSON Request API with a fully expanded JSON object. Boost. Nested boost. JSON query DSL. JSON Request API. So that says query. JSON. So there it is right there, limit 10. Let's try it again and see what happens. Oh, rows. Limit, I don't know why rows was in there. That's not even a thing. So let's limit it to 1. And let's do a filter, I guess. Filter. Wait a minute. It's so odd because that says query without quotes here. This is equivalent to, oh, here we go. It says layered merging is the best of both worlds. Requests can be specified using a readable structured JSON, but users also have the flexibility to separate parts of the request that change often. This can be seen at work in the following example, which combines JSON style parameters to override and supplement values found in the main JSON body. I don't know. Let's try it and see what happens. So it's saying take these off. Let's just try it like this. See what happens. I don't think that works. says, oh, I see. Right. Well, I don't think I want to recommend doing that. I don't want to really mess around with that. That's just hairy. I think this will work. So if I do this, that works. And let's try something like this. So we're going to do FQ. I don't know, why is that called query? Is that going to work too? I don't know. Let's try this. Is that going to work? That doesn't work. Unknown top level key and JSON request queue. Okay. What about FQ? I feel like things change. It says rows equals. Here's the, oh, there's a limit. That's why I thought there was a limit. Okay. So here we want this to be updated like that. I'm going to put a plus sign in front of it, maybe. Let's see if that works. FQ doesn't like that. I wonder if we get a. There's something that says facet. I don't know how to get that. Oh, here we go. Query. Oh, JSON field equivalent. Oh, filter. Okay. So this is. Yeah, there we go. Let's put that in the docs. That way we'll have a copy of it. Quickly handy. Right here. Like that. Okay. So it says filter. So that'll filter all of the ones where it's updated. Yeah, that works. So basically it says updated. It says give me all time ranges for where updated is set for all time ranges. That becomes the superset. And we're limiting 1. Let's limit 10 so we should get back some more now. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now let's go over here and take a look at so we've got facet. Parameters not specified in the table above can still be used in the main body of JSON API request, but they must be put within a params block as shown below. Okay, so I guess we could do something like this. So we could say, comma, that doesn't even look like JSON, params, like this. I'm assuming I can do this. And then I could say FQ, and then I could say plus updated. Should be equivalent to what's there already. So we'll take that out, and we'll see if that runs. That doesn't run. Unknown top level key and JSON request params. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Thank goodness. Okay, so that works. I guess they're saying that you just leave off all the. I mean, this is not valid JSON. I'm sorry, guys, but it's just not. It's not valid JSON. Don't do that. It's confusing to people. People can barely remember to take their masks out with them when they go out. I mean, they're just not going to remember stuff like this. So, I don't like doing stuff like this. I mean, I get it, but it's not a good idea. So if we wanted to, we could actually just do this whole thing. I actually never realized this, but now I do. And when I say that, I mean, I've seen it, and I'm like, what does that mean? And then didn't understand it, but now I understand it. So we could kind of interchangeably use, I guess those are convenience features or something like that. I don't know. Okay, well, in theory, we should be able to take our relatedness function, this thing, and we should be able to run a JSON facet on it. There's the facet right here. So let's try to build a facet. So I was going to say facet here, and then that's probably something like that. And then we're going to put, I think this is just the name. It's just the name of the facet that we're creating. So we're just creating a facet name. And then this should be like that. And then we're going to tell it the field is title. So field is title. Now let's see what happens. Great. So we actually got it sort of working, right? We're telling it we want some. These are computer extracting from human images information intelligence. You can see that here. I think what we want to do probably, if we want, we make this 0, and then we only get back those. So we don't get back anything else. So what this is basically asking for here is it's saying for the title field, which we can see here, this is the title field. For that field, give me all the faceted information that you have about it in there, like extracting. So if we look at this, because I've indexed it twice, it's in there twice, so that's why I'm getting a 2 for that. And I'm probably not getting anything else in there because I haven't indexed a lot of other stuff. Right? Right. So let's do this. Let's try to. So one of the things we can do here to make it easier to see is we can just grep this for val. So there we see that. Now let's go and tell it to index something else. What shall we index? Let's go back to Reddit. Actually, you know what? Let's go to /dot. Let's go old school today. Facebook is considering facial recognition for its upcoming smart glasses. Fuck you, Facebook. I don't give a shit what you're doing. Nobody cares. You're evil. There we go. Alright, so we're going to take this, and then we're going to hop back over here, and we're going to go, I'm negative, aren't I? That's negative. I shouldn't say that about Facebook. A lot of people use Facebook. Okay, so that's on the title. So now let's pop, and we're still in Chewy White Robin. So we're still querying Chewy White Robin, and now we're going to do that. Interesting. I don't see anything else popping up in there. Limit 0 facet title. So what is it? What is the rows? What do I say in the docs? I seriously need to put closing the documents. So let's see, localhost, there we go. Put it right here. Search. It's This thing right here. Limit. And then we want 100. I didn't like that. This is limit 0. Query filter updated limit 0. Why did I do that? Oh. Didn't like that either. Oh, this is rows. And this is limit, I think. Nope. Yeah, that works. Oh, well, it's still the same. Let's look at relatedness again. This is always my go-to. It says limit right there. Oh, it's under title. Is it in facet or title? Well, it's facet here, then title, then facet. Well, that's it for faceting on a facet. So that's doing related. That's then calculating relatedness between the two facets. But this is, it's asking for the title field. Can I do that type? Title type. And that's terms like that. That works. And then what do we want to do? We want to do limit. I think it's wrong because of this. I'm going to take this out. And then I want 100. Nope. Pushing buttons. Yes. Great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in front of this. I'm going to say dash S to go silent on it. There we go. So that's just giving us, building us a list of all the words that are in our titles. So here we can use that. We can use that in this by, for example, we could mark up these words in here. I think I have it. I've managed to get it where you double click on something like that and then it will print computer or whatever. I have to go handle the click events handler in JavaScript to fix this, but that'll be done in subsequent versions. But then we could get a count here, so maybe we can mouse over this, then it would do this type of query, and we're kind of hiding this, but let's do this. Then you can see the count of these things. So like service is 2, intelligence is 2, A, which is a stop word, is, we could also figure out what the stop words are and pull those out. So from is a stop word, for example. So now let's run this on the, not the title. We could call this whatever we want. So we could call this foobar if we wanted to, and rerun this. It'll still come out, and then foobar gets stuck right here. That's just the name of it for extraction, so you can know what it's called. And then, I don't know, what we call this, buckets or something like that. And then here we could change the field from title to description. And then that should still work. Now it's different. AI, we got a count of 2. Superhuman. What if we change this to, what is it, URL? Is that what it is? URL. What would you expect to come back? What should come back here if we're going to do this? If we're telling it to run on URL, shouldn't we not expect it to say HTTPS, www, Reddit, com, computer vision, R? We don't, or will we get back the whole URL? And there's your answer. So this is a way to bust up and query the individual elements. You can see here punctuation though matters. So Reddit didn't get pulled out. So we've got the domains essentially that have been saved. That's pretty cool. Okay, well, this looks pretty good to me. And I mean, honestly, Solr has kind of made it easy on us, I guess. I mean, we're at least it wasn't a lot of code. So there's the entirety of the code. Not really much to it. So I'm going to call that done for now, at least. So this is done for now. Let's see here. Facet query. I wonder if we could run this directly. I feel like not, but maybe we can. It's not that source type, so let's do a facet query. So we go static, new file, and we'll do a facet query. .json. I'm going to save that. The Doge. So here we're like categories is not anything. That's just a name, a fancy name. And then we've got a term type. The type of, I guess the type of facet we want is terms. So that's what does the segmentation or the extraction of the words. And then we're looking for field as source type. And I've actually renamed that. So it's this. So let's see if this works. So what did I say? Facet here? Is that what I called it? Facet query. Like that. What's it doing? Hello? McFly. I have no idea what it's doing. Can't. Okay. URL command. Oh. So unknown top level key in JSON request rows. Well, we established that earlier, didn't we? We're just going to get rid of that. I don't know where I drummed that up from. Well, there it is, right there. So facet, count, categories, buckets, spool, count 6. So because all of these documents are all type spool, then that's why it says that. It's not anything fancy. But now you know what we could do. Here's what would be really cool. Is like if we wanted to graph all of the pages that we had saved or imaged, then we could go in here and we could say, here we could say updated. And then we could run this. And then there's all the updated times. So that now we could do like a time series graph, and that would allow us to, and we could bucket it. So if we had done a couple at the same time or something like that, then we could do that. And our resolution is per second. So, you know, what we could do is the user, because whenever you do a post to the index endpoint, here, send a document. So you as the user could send in like day, or maybe like date or something like that, like 2021-02-18, and then just leave it like that. And then that way you could get a count of like stuff that you sent in on a certain day. I could also do that. I think there's a way I can do that with Solr as well, but that would be an example of something you could do. We can also do things like, you know, because we can send in custom data, we could say, well, we want to send in some tag identifier or something like that. Could we do tags? I don't know how many interesting tags we have here. Let's try to crawl something and give it a tag. So I'm going to give this to news. I think that's a problem with this article, I think. Let's take a look at this. This probably has, what happened to it? How did I copy 32? I'll go to. Yeah, so that's that one we were having yesterday. Problem we have with the quote. So let's go to some other story here. Not about coronavirus, whatever. We don't want to hear about coronavirus anymore. Significant travel rebound. Well, invest in travel stocks. I can tell you, people are like going stir crazy. They want to get out. They want to mix and mingle and be together again. And as soon as enough of the world has been vaccinated, we're going to go bonkers. I can tell you that much right now. We don't want to do this one either because it says significant. So that's not going to work. Entrepreneurship. Tech of business. Is it worth tracking your carbon footprint? This one will work. It's no wonder BBC News breaks all the time. Now we know, Joe. Couldn't figure out what was going on with it. Alright, so shift insert. Oops. Control insert. And then what do we want to do? News. What was this? This is BBC. BBC. Yep. And then let's do tags. So here you can see the tag count coming out now. So easy. Solr makes it really easy, but I mean, I say that, but at the same time, getting Solr set up is really difficult. So to be able to make it work this easily is like, for me, just pure joy. Just talking out loud here, talking out of my ass is what I'm actually mean, is that one of the things that we're going to do, if we go and look at the homepage, one of the things that I've been talking about here is start using web, SMS, or Slack. So we already have SMS and Slack integration in the product. It's just not fully integrated with like talking to it. So if you go in and look at the auth stuff, actually I'll just go up here to the method that it uses, which is in utils. It's actually really simple, but we have an SMS user and we have an email user. So we can interact with the user using, it doesn't say email in here, but you're going to be able to email it as well. So if you look at the way that I have the page laid out, you can see that Chewy White Robin has an email address. Now keep in mind there's going to be a hash on the end of these for security, but basically you'll be able to email the entity, the index or the sidekick, or you can Slack it. So they'll have a Slack bot associated with each index or an SMS bot that's associated with it. And by doing that, what you'll be able to do is actually text it from your phone. So you could be out and about. You can say, oh, here's something that I'm interested in. And you can take a picture of it. You actually go into your front, and on my phone, let me show you this real quick because it's kind of cool. So I'm going to go to Mitta, and I'm going to click login, type in my email address. Again, remember that Mitta uses passwordless authentication, so it's all just two-factor auth. And in this case, I'm using a 6-digit two-factor auth, and some people, because SMS is technically hackable, if you have high skill levels, supposedly SMS is hackable. The whole idea here is you'd want to have an additional two-factor auth on top of this. So after you authenticated with this token, then you could use like Google Auth, and then it would log you in for like a week. But, and I'm just going to open up this, but you're going to see that it says, I have it say friend. So I've saved Mitta in my phone as friend. And that's actually what Mitta means in Poly. The translation of meta in Pali means friend. So in Old English, it means measure. So it's like a measure of corn, I think, is what the Old English translation of meta means. So I use it as friend, and the friend is the sidekick, is the index. So the index is your friend. And so whenever you go and you want to like save something, you want to remember something, and like when I say remember, sometimes you just want to take a picture and enjoy the picture later, and you want to put it in Google Images or maybe into Apple Images or whatever. You want to just save it that way, and you want to go back and later and look at it. But in the case of Meta, you might want to send your friend, an image of something that you're interested in learning more about. Maybe it's an image of a painting or something like that. So when you go into your friend entry in your phone, and then you send it a photo, then what will happen is it will actually upload the photo into Meta. And then once you come in here and you log in, then you would be able to say, okay, show me the image from yesterday that I sent you, and it would do that. But the kicker is that you will be able to tag that with a machine learning model. And when the machine learning model tags it, then it will add tags to it, like we see here. So let's just pretend we're doing that now. We don't really have a good way of doing that, but in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to, what can we do? Let's see, Mona Lisa image. So we'd expect to see, so let's say you're at the Louvre and you're looking at the Mona Lisa. Let's do it like this. Yeah, there's the Mona Lisa. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to do local host 8080. So this is kind of like, well, we're taking a picture. I've never done that before. It doesn't apparently work. That worked. It didn't like the question mark for some reason. So now we're going to search. Still doesn't come back. We're going to try it again. It's that off by one bug. I say off by one bug. It doesn't work the first time bug. There is no title and description because it's an image. We're just pretending anyway. Did it work? It didn't work. Well, anyway, there it is. Let's pretend that worked. That should work, but it doesn't work. So I don't know why it doesn't work. Joe's going to need to figure that one out. But so the crawler needs to be able to take that picture, take a picture of this page. So we should be returning the picture of the page. Kind of puzzled why that doesn't work. Seems fairly straightforward. Never tested it before though, so let's go in here and look at the spool. It's going to be one that's not labeled. Should be this one right here. Yeah, that's it. Here. This one. File names are not filled out, so it didn't save it. So something happened to the crawler didn't like me giving it a JPEG. We'll figure it out. It'll work, but the whole idea being that you send that in to Mitta, and then whenever Mitta looks at it, and let's do that. Let's actually go in and we're going to say save this. We're just going to walk through the steps. Where did that put that? And why is it a WebP? It says it's a JPEG. Damn it, Chrome. I friggin' hate that when you do that. It's so annoying. Save image as. So ridiculous. I mean, it downloaded it as a JPEG, but it's not a JPEG. I don't know. Why can't I drag that in there? Because they disabled that. It's like Google, you just. I'm going to take a snipper of it. Let's snip it. All right. So now we have it, and now we're going to save it, and now it's going to be JPEG or PNG. So we'll call Mona. And then where did I save that at? Save as, should be on the desktop. Yeah, it's on the desktop. Okay, so now we're going to go over to Google Vision, try it. And then we're going to go over here. We're going to use Google Vision first. So that's going to be the first machine learning library that we add to Mitta is Google Vision. We're going to go to the desktop. We're going to load this. Now, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen here? It's going to figure it out. It's a person. What do you think about the labels? Face, cheek, hairstyle, facial expression, human, art, painting, artist, self-portrait, stock photography. Tourist attraction, modern art, still life, paint, vintage clothing. Properties, aspect ratio, safe search, adult, spoof. Look at that, it doesn't know what it is. So Google's AI does not know what this is. Just doesn't. Landmark detected. It didn't detect a landmark. Yeah, it doesn't know what it is. It has no clue. But some AI will know it. Some machine learning library will know this is a Mona Lisa. There's probably model for art. Super AI, machine learning advanced art generators, machine learning. For artists, state of the art. Browse the state of the art, I don't know. There doesn't appear to be anything. You know, there's one for machine learning model for plants. Try it. This model, I don't remember what the name of the model is, but this model, the one for the plants, is actually publicly available. A bunch of them are. I can't believe there's not one for art, but maybe there's not. But in the case of this, at least we would be able to type in art. So if you went to the Louvre and you took a picture of it and you texted it to Mitta, and then you came back and you searched for art or painting or whatever, this photo will come up. That's the whole idea with it. And that's just by texting it via SMS. It's just a way to organize the information that you find online. I mean, like, it would be great if it knew it was the Mona Lisa, but we could figure that out later. I mean, that could be like a subsequent release. We could do like training of like art or plants or cars or whatever, buildings. Buildings would be cool if you just took pictures of buildings. And the reason we could do it is because if somebody then said to me, you know, as you're typing to it, you give it a tag. You say something like, you know, like what I did here earlier. There's that click problem. Someday that will go away. At least it's better than it was. You can click on stuff. It's so funny. Okay, so stop. Okay, I'm not going to click. Okay, there we go. Now I can click. Okay, so if we do a search here, actually we're going to do a search for tags. What do we have? News. So here we have a smaller section, cross section of stuff here, and we can look for that tag. Well, you can just pretend that we could just say tags equals art. And then you hit enter, and it's not seeing anything for that search because I don't have anything tagged art, but the model itself would mark that up for us. And to my knowledge, there's nothing like this on the internet right now, so that's why I'm creating it, because I think that it'll be cool to be able to do that. One of the things I want to do is just go around and take pictures of plants and send it to it. So I want to have a model. I would create a sidekick. Of course, I'll have more sidekicks than 3, but I'll create a sidekick, and one of them will be for just plants, and I'll just take pictures of plants and send it to it. And then it'll go, oh, this is a tree, or this is a bush, it's a maple, it's a, it's a hawthorn bush, or something like that. And it'll tell me what it is based on running it against that model, and I can come in here and search for it. I can just say, something like search, and I don't know what, like, I don't know what we would call the term, maybe type isn't. So maybe we say something like plant or something like that, and then this would be a maple. And then I get back my maple tree that I'd taken a picture of. Okay, enough blabbing. So let's close up a bunch of these because we don't need them anymore. And what we're going to do now is we're going to stub out this, I don't know, like I could either work on putting in these examples. I feel like not, because it's sort of boring work. So what we can do is we can stub out the tag stuff. How much time do we have left? 40 minutes. That's a long time. Okay, so I feel like I just want to stub this stuff out. So right now I currently have tag. This is what I have it saying: list models, or have a model scan existing documents using search. Also have a sidekick update documents with tags suggested by a model, or allow a model to insert synthesized documents into the sidekick. So a synthesized document would be, I go to this page, and then I extract this photo. And then it says this is a person, it's a woman, it's got trees, it's a portrait, it takes out this text, blah, 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 blah. And it puts all of that stuff in there, like I get a whole bunch of stuff coming out of the analysis by the model of this particular part of the page, and then I create a new document. So that's what I mean by when I say here, insert synthesized documents. This entire document, this is the entire document based off the URL, the Universal Resource Locator, which is where it can be viewed in its entirety. I don't have the whole thing here. In fact, you can see I sort of failed to draw certain things. Maybe because I didn't wait long enough for the page to update, or maybe this page didn't want to update it. And I'm okay with that, actually. I would prefer not to have all the data of the complete page, just because, I mean, some pages will come back and they'll have the entire page, and some don't. Some come back with like just a little summary because they don't want you to see the whole thing. And if they want to do that, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. This is just designed to be a thumbnail for the user to reference. It builds to build a thumbnail for reference, but it's also for extracting the content that's on this page, is like these photos over here, things like that. Obviously, this stuff over here on the side is not relevant to the content that's on the page, but this is. This picture, this is this person talking, Christian Arno. Paw print. This is Christian. He's sitting on a little bench and he's got a bike. Some things that, you know, is that a cookie? Or a ball of yarn? I don't know why he has I think it should be a cookie, shouldn't it? If that's a glass of milk, that's a cookie. But it also looks like a ball of yarn. I don't know. He has a crock pot. It's a pretty nice crock pot. And then he has a tree. I don't know. This is totally contrived. Somebody sat him down here and took a picture of him like that. But the whole idea is that there are additional documents in this page that are probably worth exploring. Maybe a document, for example, a related synthesized document would be related information. So like stuff that's related to the story but not actually about the story. So maybe these things over here. This would be a synthesized document. So we'd pull out these locus, and then let's do that actually. I'm doing it again. I'm going off sending stuff to Google. I can't wait till I actually get it running. When we have 40 minutes, I can give it a swipe. I kind of want to do it off stream because I'll be super excited when I get it done, and then I want to go run around outside. I've actually had it working before, but it's pretty cool when it works. I'll have to talk later on some other stream about the history of coming up with this, but there's this story where I had Google Vision hooked up to Twitter, a Twitter bot, Twitter feed, and then I was like indexing all of this stuff that these trolls, like these these people that, like political trolls, were on Twitter and they were putting out all of this image-based content, and which is sort of like, in my mind, not a great thing because it hurts people, like makes people think things that they shouldn't really be thinking about. But anyway, we're taking a bunch of those images and we're passing them over to Google Vision, and then it got out of control. I added a whole bunch of users to it that I was watching all of the senators and all the representatives and most of the people in the U.S. government's Twitter accounts. It's like 5 or 6,000 people, I think. And I was looking at all the imagery coming in on all their accounts, plus all the people that were interacting with them. So that was like 15,000. It was a large number of people. And then I came in like 2 days later, and we had a bill for like $2,000 or $3,000 from Google Vision, because I had submitted like millions of images. So yeah. Anyway, I've had a little bit of experience running Google Vision before. So we're gonna go Google Vision. Try it. Come on, Google. I saw it for a second. There we go. And then what are we going to save this? Save as bugs. That's on our desktop. So we're going to click this, and we're going to click on bugs, and we're going to click on open. So we're just pretending here that we are synthesizing a document. Well, it says insect. Well, it thinks that's an animal. Sky vertebrate. No. Arthropod? What is that? Yeah, like some bug. Interesting. Cloud, organism, animal migration, bird migration, terrestrial animal. So there's a lot of stuff in here that we could use. Logos, Turk Telecom. Well, that's kind of impressive. Turk Telecom. Huh. Maybe that's an ad. There's no text, but it thinks there's some text in there. So saying this animal, insect. Are insects animals? Yes or no? What is an animal anyway? Something that bothers me as a naturalist is that when people confuse classification for animals, example is a spider an insect. Is a whale a fish? It's not answering the question. Insects are also animals, but they diverge from humans and are classified as arthropods, which means jointed legs. So I want to give a shout out to Chow. Rest in peace, Chow. Chow went back home sometime last year to China. She didn't come back. So evidently she died unexpectedly when she was in China. That makes me sad. But I had this awesome conversation with her about what to do with stuff like this. And what we decided was that when we saw something like this occurring, that we would actually just stick each one of these in the index. So here, what this says to me is the computer, or at least Google Vision, thinks that 4 out of 6 times it thinks that this is an animal. Well, I was wrong. I was like, are insects animals? I was thinking they're not animals, but they are animals. And so, but it's also an insect. So it's like animal. Well, that increases the weight when we do a return. So if we were searching with Solr and we tag this animal, this is Chow's idea, by the way. This is not my idea. She gave me this brain bug. Is that the weight of that document is increased such that whenever I search for animal, this will come up weightier than maybe something that doesn't have an animal in it, or only one animal in it. And in this case, it has 2 insects, so insect. So we can also do an inference that insects are animals based on looking at this. That's at least what the model thinks. So we think that by looking at the result from this objects that Google Vision is giving us, and it's segmenting these, so it's actually found the location of these animals on the page and these insects on the page, that it knows intrinsically somewhere inside of it that these images are of animals and insects. And so we can make a correlation between the two, and we can say, well, you know, maybe this is an insect and an animal, and that somehow insects are animals from this. So we can make a lot of inferences from this, and there's a lot of cool stuff that we can do with search. And that's just by crawling. Like, this is the kicker. The thing that like just like gets me giddy when I think about working on this is that, like, these words here are close to this image. Solr, Google Vision will tell us that these words are in close location to this. And my plan is that whenever I save all this, I'm going to save the location of all of this stuff too in Solr. And because Solr has a location ability, it has an ability to take like locations, XY coordinates, for example, and give you things that are related to other things that are close to XY coordinates. We can actually, and this is when I talk about synthesizing a document, we can just take this out and synthesize a new document. And then all of a sudden, even though the user has never given us a page with locusts on it. Well, I mean, they did, but they didn't know it because it's an ad, sort of. It's sort of an ad. Is that we can then now know in the engine, if somebody typed in locust, we could say, oh, locust is an animal and it's an insect, and here's a picture of it. Just like that from the synthesized document. Okay, I went back off and just got totally off tangent again. So we're going to jump back in, and we're going to start talking about how are we going to, so this is me writing this right here was like sort of my first pass at it, but while I'm thinking about this, so listing the models, that makes sense. So do we start with that? Or have a model scan existing documents using search? But then I was like, well, what about a spool? So spools are proper objects in the system. It's an upload target endpoint. So if we look, if we go in here and we actually, we list our indexes, our sidekicks, and we delete this guy. We're going to do it right now. I don't think he can't delete himself. This is not going to work. It's okay. We can try. Yeah. So I was saying she's unable to delete herself, or whatever. But we can delete this one. Whenever we delete it, even though we delete it, we still have our spools left. So every user has a list of spools. So here's the spools. And sometimes we have a description, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have an image of the page, sometimes we don't. You can create a spool. Let's create a spool real quick. So the way we're going to create a spool is we're going to do this. The front side of this. We want that silent. And spools are on the /u endpoint. So that's going to create a new spool. So now the spool's empty. I didn't give it a title. I didn't give it a description. So those are none. Probably less than ideal. Let's say none in quotes, but it doesn't matter. If I said tags here, I'm going to create another spool. And I'm going to say tags equals food, equals animal. And then an insect. Now I'm looking at that, I'm like, did I spell animal right? Doesn't matter. Invalid token, huh? Still? What's wrong with it? That worked, didn't it? Does that work? Okay, that works. Oh. I'm silly. So this is tags equals comma insect ampersand. Invalid token. Is it tag? It's tag equals. Why does it say it's an invalid token? Oh, because it's an error. I have no idea why that's not working. Oh, it's because there's an ampersand, for God's sake. Okay. Here we go. Bam! Did we get tags? No, because it's not tag, it's tags. I don't even know how to use my own API. Well, that didn't work either. Why not? Post. Let's go look at the code. So it's upload. And we're doing a post. So that's list. This is post. For tag string, for tags in tag string, tags append. They're all tags. So let's print tags here. Like that. Wood tags, but it's empty. It's kind of weird, it's just sitting there too. Okay, that works. Animal insect. Wood tags. Tags append. For tag and tag string split. It's a form get? Oh. I can't do it like that. I think the thing is I actually say, I mean, this is sort of like, I mean, like, what do you do with REST? So this is a post, but then this is a, I'm allowing the token to be put in there like this, but that's not really, that's not right. You can't do that here. You could do a query that way, but I'm not supporting that in the post. So what I need to do is I need to put a U here and a question mark, and then I need to put -D, and then I put tags equals insect animal, like that. Now that will work. Now I've got an insect and animal in there. Now if I go and I look at what was my query? That's a query. Field tags. Huh. Why did I create that too? Oh, you know what? I don't know where that went. Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't indexed it. So it hasn't been indexed, that's why I'm not able to query it. I'm brain farting here. Okay, so this is the point, is that null. Is that it? Kind of hard to tell. It's a Z. It's a IHD. So IHD. That's not it. So IHD. Let's sort this. This one right here. So that's the spool, but I can't see the tags because they're encrypted or encoded, I should say. So in this case, this. Let's edit this real quick. So we're going to go ahead and description. Let's change the description from, we'll just say it's text. And we'll say this is insect. Insects are animals. Yeah. Alright, so that's the description, is insects are animals. So now we want to say, do we want to have, and we're going to assume that there's an image in here. So, in other words, that we would use the upload endpoint here. Here, we're going to use the upload endpoint here to upload to the spool. So upload an image to the named spool. So we'd upload an image into the spool. I'm not going to do that right now, but we could upload the image into the spool and then tag it, which I think overwrites the tags. And so then, I don't know why that's an F. I don't remember why that's, oh, that's form data, I think. And then we could say, well, we have a spool, but we haven't indexed it yet. Would we like the AI or the machine learning library to look at the spool? That'd be the question. Because it hasn't been indexed yet. So there's sort of this concept of like, there's this lurking image set, like the spool, which could be, I mean, you can request a crawl be done, and the crawl itself will not trigger an index. It will just image the page and save it into the spool. But the reason why it does it in the UI is if I do it here, is because the grub command, which is running inside, it's a JavaScript program that's running inside of the shell, it actually takes it after it's done and then it causes it to be indexed. So it indexes the spool. So it's just JavaScript causing it. But by the API doesn't automatically do it. It's left to you to do that, the user to do it. If you're using the API, as you could say, we'll take this spool and send it on. So it feels like, to me, that, so here it's like, scan one or more documents with a model, requires a token, turns a list of machine learning models. So here, list models or have a model scan existing documents. Or documents. I don't know, does that sound right? Or documents returned from a search. So I'm kind of giving you a peek. This is how I went through and built this API page to begin with. So list models or have a model scan existing spools or documents returned from a search. List models or have a model scan existing spools or documents returned from a search. List models. Can't add a model yet, so you're not going to be able to do that. I'm going to manage the models for the time being. So list models. Try that. See what that looks like. I'm going to read that out loud. List models available for use or indicate a model should scan a spool or scan documents returned from a search. Also have a sidekick, update documents with tags suggested by a model, or allow a model to insert synthesized documents into the sidekick. I don't really like that. That doesn't sound really good. So list models available for, how about this? List models which then scan list models list Show a list of machine learning models which can either scan a spool or documents. I'll just drop this part. So show a list of machine learning models which can either scan a spool or documents. Or Sidekick's documents, because the Sidekick doesn't own a spool. It's the spool is a collection of images. Show a list of machine learning models which can either scan a spool or a Sidekick's documents. Show a list of machine learning models or scan a spool or a Sidekick's documents. Also have a Sidekick update documents with tags suggested by a model, or allow a model to insert synthesized documents into a Sidekick. I think that sounds okay. Let's see what that looks like. It should be shorter. It is. Okay, good. You can see how when I reloaded that, it actually got shorter. So this shorter something is when you say it, the better it is. Typically, if it makes sense. Let's see if it makes sense. Show a list of machine learning models or scan a spool or a Sidekick's documents with a model. Also, update a Sidekick's documents with tags suggested by a model or allow a model to insert synthesized documents into a Sidekick. Yep. All right, now what we need to do is we need to figure out what the methods are. We've got 15 minutes. So that's what we're going to do in 15 minutes. We're going to figure out what these models are and we're going to lay them out. And then in the next video, the next stream 21, we're going to actually start coding these. And then things are going to get interesting real fast. Okay, I can't wait to start working on the UI. I mean, I've been working on the UI, but not like in earnest. I need some design work done. All right, tag uses get and post requests and may be called with the following parameters: token and document ID. So it needs to also, I think it needs to say Sidekick. Because we're gonna say model. Model's gonna go here, so we don't. That's not a parameter. So if we're talking to a model, so if we say to the model, we're gonna do post to the model. So we could post. A. I think what we need here is a spool ID here, like this. So we can have a document ID. So we could give it a specific document to look at. We could also give it, what else could we do? We could give it a query. Should we use queue or query? Or select. So we can't make that queue. And I don't want to do save searches. It's the last thing I want to do is a save search. I do not want to do save searches. So if we make it, I mean, we're going off this, or scan a spool or Sidekick's documents with a model. I mean, we don't want to search all of the Sidekick's documents. We definitely need we need the Sidekick. We need to pass it the Sidekick. like that. Yes, we call both of them. Sorry, I'm yawning. Oof. Okay, sidekick like that. Well, that at the very least is the sidekick that we need to query. Scan a spool or a sidekick's documents. Well, clearly we could do a sidekick, we could do a document ID of a sidekick with this. But then what do we do with the query? I almost feel like we need to do what we were doing with search, which is this. If we're doing it that way. So we could put the rest of the crap in the URL. This is wrong. Gotta fix that. I don't want to support all of this junk. I think it should. I think if I want to do a search, it should show. It should be done with this, something like this. But then, what's the point of that? What's it going to return? Is it always going to return the file names? I mean, isn't that what the model's going to look at, is the file names, or does the model also look at the text of the? I mean, if we're looking at this, so this is a document here. There's the document. It's not a very good document because it doesn't have a file name. This is a document that has a file name. So this is something that the model could look at. The model could go look at this. Obviously it has an ID, so we could pass it the doc ID. Why pass it the search if we already have search available to us? Right. There's no reason. So we could do a search, get back a list of documents, pass the sidekick a list of documents. Where is it? It's here. So yeah, we want the sidekick, but then we could do something like this. It's kind of like the tags. Where do I do that at? I think it's just like, I put question marks in there, I think. Question marks, commas. I think it's just like this. Yeah, so doc2. Doc ID 1, doc ID 2, like that. And then one side, we'll limit it to one sidekick. There's no sense in doing more than one sidekick there. So that'll say scan these document IDs. And we're going to have to tell it to either update or just query. We'll figure that out here in a second. So what else are we going to query? So show a list of machine learning models. So I have to have a model ID. Well, the model name is here. So there'll be model names. Yeah. But we're not going to put the model name in there. So show a list of machine learning models or scan a spool. So we need a spool. Li class equals lead. And then this is an ampersand. And then this is a spool ID, spool name. See, I feel like that should be named. I don't know. I'll standardize it. I'll just put sidekick ID in there to remind myself. I mean spool ID. So that's spool ID. Now then the question is, if we can give it multiple documents, can we give it multiple spools? So the answer is yes, we can. Or should we let the user do that? I mean, you loop through and then just call it for each one? I mean, I feel like yes. I feel like maybe we just let the user do it. So you can send it a single document. You can send it a single spool. Like that. Those are going to be different methods. But there's no reason to support multiple. Because I mean, you could just loop through and just call it over and over again. I think that's right. We'll put it off on the user. Or scan a spool or a sidekicks documents with a model. Also have a sidekicks documents. Also update a sidekicks documents with tags suggested by a model. Okay, so we have the sidekick. We have the sidekick and the document ID in there, so we can do that with tags suggested by a model. Or allow a model to insert synthesized documents into a sidekick. That's it. So there's nothing else here. That's it. Those are the parameters that can be used. So it's token, doc ID, sidekick ID, spool ID. Those are the objects that the tag operates on. Okay, so if we get T, returns a list of machine learning models. Those are taggers. But we could very well just call this taggers. Like that. We'll just call it tag. Because it's a doing. We don't want to put, all of these should be verbs. Search, tag, index, upload, crawl. These should be all doings. Settings. Settings is sort of not, but that's okay. Settings things. Okay, so this is going to return a list of machine learning models, so that makes sense, I think. Post T, so we're going to post to, scan, run, or mark documents with a model. Post T. Well, this is going to get interesting fast because what we need to do is we need to scan the spool. So do we need a separate, do we need a scan method? We have a tag method, do we need a scan method? So if we have a tag method, so if we update a sidekicks documents, then we could actually so we could do something like this. Let's go down here and grab this one. So let's just do this. So we're going to do /t, and then does this become the document? Like this? So I actually put the model here. Model name, right? Model name, and then /document ID. So if we do a post to that, and then this requires well, what if the document is not a spool? Doesn't matter. This is going to update the tags or a field in the document. based on what the document spool has in it. So it's going to look at a document, it's going to look at the spool that the document has. It's going to take into account other things in the document, and then it's going to update the document. This is not going to be perfect, but we'll get close to it. So this is going to be update a side kicks document. What we could do is do that to the spool. No. Update a sidekicks document by, here we go, by scanning a spool with a model. Requires token and spool. Let's see what that looks like. Alright, post T model name doc ID. Update a sidekicks document by scanning a spool with a model. Requires token and spool. Don't we need the sidekick though too? So post should create an object. I don't know if that's a put. Should that be done to the document? It is being done to the document. Do we put the sidekick name in there too? I don't know. Jesus. Okay, so, and what if we say model name, but it's like, I don't know, we're using the word ID up here, but whatever. Well, let's put ID here. So we put side. I mean, technically, you're like, if you have this resource endpoint that doesn't exist, if you're making it RESTful, then is that a resource endpoint that you care about? It's like the model ID. I feel like it's more like this. I'm just going to put this in here just like this for just a second. So I'm going to put the model in here like this. I feel like that's good. So this is going to get all of the models. And then this would be the model ID. Okay, and then you're going to do this is going to be updating the sidekicks documents. Update a document in sidekick using a using a spool with a model. Update a document in Sidekick by scanning a spool with a model. And then that's the Sidekick ID document ID. So you're posting to the Sidekick's document, which is then doing an update into the document. So that makes sense. And then this actually requires the model ID. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, post Sidekick ID document. Update a document in a Sidekick by scanning a spool with a model. And it also requires the spool. Well, I mean, the doc is always in the Sidekick, so that has to be that way. And I feel like if you're updating it, then you're posting into it. I'm not going to do a put. Puts are confusing. I think posts are better. Just makes it simpler having one thing. Update a document Sidekick, model ID. Requires token, spool ID, and model ID. Requires token, spool ID, and model ID. Yep. Okay, now what? Sends a document to the machine learning model. I don't think that's right. What happens with it when it gets it? Does it just return tags? Sends a document, sends a spool. Requires token and document ID. Okay, post T model ID. So you're doing a post to the model. See, I don't know about this. Update a document in Sidekick by scanning the spool of the model. I mean, if I send a spool to a model, then does it not return a document? I mean, it could return its own object. It could return a document. I mean, that's essentially the only thing you can do with the model. Is you can send it a bunch of images. Well, let's assume that, like, when you do this, it's just going to grab all the images and it's going to send them off, and then it's going to return a document. So then with the document, then you could do the updates. So you could just say, I'm not going to do anything with these. So is this whole thing just kind of foobarred then? Show a list of machine learning models, or scan a spool with a model. And then do we not? And then that's it. What if we want to update? What if we want to update the document? How do we do that? I feel like what happens here is we end up with a document, which is sort of the synthesized thing that I was talking about. You end up with a new document from the spool. So you could end up with a list of documents. And then you can do whatever you want with the documents. Because if you have a document that's already in the index that's the spool, which had a title and description, then you could update the document. Or you could insert new documents based on, scanning with something else. I think that makes sense. This is simpler. I think I was overthinking it. Okay, so I'm going to take out those two. So tag uses get and post requests and may be called with the following parameters. So it's actually not a sidekick. We're going to assume that we need to update the sidekick. We need to call the index methods with this after we're done with it. So we'll get back an object that we can call the index methods with. We may have to go back and update the index. We don't need the model ID because we're going to call that in the URL. So we need the spool ID. That's it. Okay, so get t returns a list of machine learning models, and then there's a post, and that's it. So it's this one right here. We're going to take these out. I don't think we might need to be able to do that one. Maybe we just put it in here. I don't think we need an individual one. I don't think there's any reason to query an individual model. We can put all the data about the model in here. We can do something like this too, cost or something like that. And then we're going to post to the model. Send a spool to a machine learning model, returns tags, text, and other data, and other documents, and documents. Returns tags, text, and documents, which can be used to update a sidekick with the index methods. Yeah. Like that. Except with a quote. Like that. Requires token and spool ID. And then we actually put that in here. Ampersand spool ID equals whatever. A spool ID. This one. Here. This. And then we need something in here. Maybe we get something like this going on. So we have tags. And then what else do we have? Text. We have whatever all those objects are coming back, like landmarks. I don't know. We have a whole bunch of stuff coming back. I don't know what to do with all those yet, but we'll figure it out. And then docs. What do we have? Other spools. Spools. I think that's right. I don't know. We need to figure this out. So this is result. I don't know. Response. Who knows? In tag. All right, let's look at that. Is it that simple? I was just making it overly complicated, I think. Show a list of machine learning models or scan a spool with a model. Tag uses get and post requests and may be called with the following parameters. I mean, it seems like we need to be able to, I mean, a spool is going to have a title, description, file names, tags, URL, I think I said that. So it doesn't have very many things, but then a document can have a lot of things in it. So does the